Hi everyone, my name's Darius Strawn. I'm a director, writer, and producer. I know this video is a little bit different from the other content that I usually make, but I wanted to start making some more informational videos on top of posting my films and things online because there's so much information out there about filmmaking. Sometimes it can be a little bit hard to just get something pretty simple and figure out where to get started, especially if you're not in film school. So today I'm going to be talking about storyboarding your film. I'm going to be talking about the process, going to be giving different examples of storyboards, and just explaining why it might be helpful to use this when you're making your next film. So let's get started. I'm going to be going over what is a storyboard, why do we use them, the different elements in the storyboard, and how we use them, the purpose of them, right? Then I'm going to give some examples, and then we're going to have a conclusion to bring everything together. What you see here, this is an example of storyboards from the movie Psycho. I haven't seen this film, but I have seen this scene. It's a very iconic shower murder scene. And I'm going to get into more of this later, but as you can see, storyboards do not have to be extremely detailed, right? Like the main purpose of them is visualizing the technical look of the film and planning everything out before you actually shoot it. And the different reasons we use this is obviously for preparation, so you know what you're going to be shooting when you get onto set, outside of just having a shot list. And it gives you more confidence in the director's ideas and how it's being presented to the rest of the team, like their cinematographer. Instead of looking at a shot list that just has everything written down out on like a spreadsheet, for example, looking at a storyboard can give you a good idea of what you actually want the shot to look like for more visually and image based thinking people. And obviously this gives you more opportunities to make mistakes and to brainstorm, so you're not wasting time on set. When I'm going into making a film and I'm discussing the shot list with my cinematographer, when I'm drawing different shots, I go through so many different variations of what the shot could look like, just so I can get all these ideas out of my head. And then I work with my cinematographer to make sure like that everything is coming together cohesively and making sure that we are being concise in what we want to do. A big thing with storyboards, like I said before, I'm getting my ideas out there so I can cut out all of the things that we don't need. So if I have these ideas coming onto set and we didn't go through them before, I could be like, wait, let's try this. And then turns out we don't even need that shot. Turns out that shot doesn't even match with the whole vibe, right? So this is where we're getting into not wasting time, where you don't have to either waste time working on ideas that don't work, and you don't have to waste time explaining the shot because you can see it on the drawing. And this isn't to say that you can't try new things on set and try different shots and different setups that you didn't plan out. That's totally okay. I do that as well. This is just about having a plan and being 100% sure on that plan. So if things come up later on, you have different ideas you want to try out, you can 100% try those out. But we just want to make sure that we have something to stand on when we actually get on set. We're going to be getting into the elements of a storyboard, right? So we got the scenes, shot angles, and movements, right? Which is basically the labeling of the storyboard. Then we have the frame, the actual rectangle or whatever shape frame that you have, depending on your aspect ratio. You got the visuals, which is like the drawing that's inside of it. So like the mise en scene, like what's actually in the shot, uh, what characters, background, maybe some details on the lighting and what props are going to be used. Then you got the action and dialogue, right? Just to get into some little definitions where we're talking about the labeling for the shots, right? So a shot is an uninterrupted series of frames, and it doesn't necessarily like need to be a single take. And when I'm saying frames, just think of it as when you're shooting a video, it's basically taking a bunch of photos and then putting those photos together. That's where we get the name moving picture. That's where movies come from. You got to look at the frame rate of the camera, because the lower the frame rate, that means the less pictures it's taking, and therefore the movement is going to be more choppy. And there is a sweet spot. Just because the frame rate is super high doesn't necessarily mean the audiences are going to like it. There are examples of movies that shot in super high frame rates where it made the audience feel they were actually in it, And it freaked a lot of people out because they didn't feel like they were watching a movie. They felt like they were watching real life. Okay, so there is a sweet spot in there, usually about 30 frames per second, which is like, okay, I'm okay watching this. I don't feel like I'm watching like uh, a scene from my mind. You know what I mean? When I say it's an uninterrupted series of frames, that means it's kind of sort of within the same, it's like one take almost. And I'm saying it doesn't necessarily need to be a single take because there are different films that make it look like it's multiple, excuse me, that make it look like it's a single shot the entire film. Obviously, 90% of the time, it's not actually a single shot. It's just cut up in ways you don't know. That's what I mean when I say it doesn't necessarily have to be a single take, because you can have it be like it's one shot, but it's technically not one shot. But let's just pretend like we're not talking about that because that's a little complicated to describe. It's just one shot, one take. And then a scene is a string of shots within the same location or the same moment, right? So let's say, hmm, okay. Let's say a scene. So a scene, okay, next up, let's go to a scene. A scene is a string of shots within the same location or moment. Let's break this down. A shot could be me walking into the house. That's just a shot, right? There could be another shot of me inside the house picking up my keys. A third shot can be me calling the phone, calling my homegirl, right? Those are three different shots, but if you put that together, that can be a scene. You know, the scene is me walking into the house, me picking up my keys, me calling my homegirl. Even though we're doing it in different shots, it's all within the same moment. When you get into montages, that's not a single scene. That is a sequence. Okay, a sequence is a string of scenes telling a larger story, right? So we already talked about the scene of me going to the house, picking up my keys, calling my friend. If we want to do, let's say, like a montage or a sequence of that, right? It can be that scene, me in the house doing all those things. Another scene could be me doing the same thing over again, but 30 years later, walking to my house 30 years later, picking up my keys 30 years later, call my friend 30 years later, right? These are two different scenes, but it's stringing those together. We can even add like a third and fourth one on top of that. We can do montages, me doing push-ups, right? Me like holding up a train because I'm super muscular and jacked, right? That can be a whole montage. When we get into these types of shots, right? We got a full or a wide shot, which is showing the whole body of the subject. It doesn't even have to be this close. Like the person here can just be this tiny. Like it could be showing literally like skyscrapers, right? That's a wide shot. And can also be known as like an establishing shot because you're establishing where we are. Okay. Then we have a cowboy shot or a medium shot. I match these together because, in my opinion, they can kind of go hand in hand, right? So we have a medium shot, usually the knees up if we're shooting on a person, right? Cowboy shot is a little bit below the hips. So like if you think about in a western film where like it's like a standoff and you pan back and forth between them holding the guns in their thing, right? Boom. Medium shot, waist up. Then we have a medium close up, which is in between a medium and a close up. Okay, at this point, the names can kind of mix together, right? So we have medium close up, extreme close up, and extreme shot. You know what I mean, right? Medium close up, boom. Usually chest up. It doesn't even have to be as strict as this. This is just what I'm saying. Medium close up, boom, of the face, extreme close up, the eyes, mad close to your face, right? And all these different types of shots, they tell you different things. They make you feel certain ways. So, for example, if I'm doing an introduction of a character, right, and I want y'all to see like what they're wearing, how they're standing, I'm gonna do a full shot. I'm not gonna give you a close up of the character's eyes and expect you to know what they're wearing. Okay, so I'm gonna do a full shot because I want you to see what they're wearing for this example. But if I want you to see that a character's eyes are like bloodshot, like they've been staying up all night, I'm not going to show you a medium shot because like you don't know where to focus. You're not really going to know to focus on their eyes. So I might do a close up or an extreme close up so you can see the eyes. You know what I mean? Okay, I'm back. filming on a completely different day because I had to go to work. Then I forgot about this video, but apologies. Okay, angles and movement. These are different elements that you can mix and match to affect the shots that you're using and also impact the way the viewers are seeing that shot, all right, and how they're feeling. Just to add on to the last point. So angles, obviously, is if you're tilting the camera up, down, maybe to the side a little bit. It can be like this. And like I said, it affects the audience's view on the subject or the situation. And the movement is literally how the camera physically moves in the shot. Okay. So, for example, if you have the camera being handheld, so it's a little bit more shaky, it may make the audience feel as though they're actually in the scene walking around with the characters. Can also make them feel a little bit unnerved or a little bit, oh, we're about to fall over. You know what I mean? Okay, next. These are some of the angles that you can use in your shot to make the audience feel a certain way. For example, we have a low angle. This is a scene from Home Alone. It makes the subject look quite bigger. It makes the audience feel a little bit more scared of them than they usually would be, right? Because it's coming from below. It's making us feel like we're small and they're big and they're taking up more of our space. On the opposite end, we have a high angle. This is a scene from Jurassic World, and it makes the subject look very weak, very small compared to whatever the camera is the point of view of, in this case, a dinosaur, which is fitting because dinosaurs are huge and humans are small, obviously. All right, next, we have a Dutch angle. This gives the audience a sense of unease. Okay, the way you do it is literally by tilting the camera this way or this way, right? And it makes them feel unease because not only do we not often see shots like this where it's tilted to the side, so it's just kind of unnatural for us. This is not how we're used to seeing things. You know what I mean? Like we've all seen something bigger than us, we all seen something smaller than us. So it makes sense. It's like, okay, I know what I'm supposed to I know what position I'm supposed to be in here, but this one is like you don't often walk around looking at stuff from the side. Now we're going to get into some of the movements, okay, for what your camera can do in these shots. I'm going to go through this pretty quickly because it's kind of a lot, but a pan is when the camera looks left or right. Okay, camera isn't moving side to side, it's just looking left and right. Okay, a push is when the camera physically moves forward. Okay, physically moves forward. Pull when it moves backwards, right? A jib or a boom is when the camera moves up or down, physically moves up or down. Not looking up and down, but moving up and down. You can do this by having it on a crane, for example, and your camera just pull it up, pull it down. You got to tilt when the camera looks up and down. Yes, yes. Then a tracking shot where the camera stays locked onto the subject, following it. Okay, this is more about a shot, but it's also what the camera's doing, if that makes sense. Like, for example, let's say we have a party scene and we're trying to get the audience to focus on one person, but we're not seeing their face. So the person could be walking and the camera's just following them behind their back. So we just see them walking from behind their back, like we're following someone in line almost. Okay, that's tracking shot. A truck is when the camera moves left or right. Okay, and usually that's when it's also tracking a subject when it does that as well. Okay, camera's trucking left or right. And sometimes panning and trucking kind of gets used in the same way, like verbally, at least from like what I've heard people say. But I like to um, still understand the specifics of what things actually mean. But at the end of the day, like as long as people know what you're talking about, know what you mean, then it's like okay. Roll. I personally don't use these type of shots that often, but it's really cool when I see people using them. So when the camera literally rotates in a circular motion like this, in a circle, twisting motion. And the arc is when the camera similarly moves in a circular motion, but it's like it's like that. Does that make sense? It's kind of hard to show it physically. Let me try to draw it. Let's see if that's gonna work. Excuse my drawing skills, but what? Okay, an arc. Let's say this is our camera. Okay, boom, that's our camera. All right, and the camera literally it can start here, and it just boom like that. Okay, boom. Now we're gonna get into labeling. Okay, labeling. So We already talked about scenes and shots. So if you don't remember, just rewind the video a little bit, okay? So the scene is typically marked with a number and the shot is marked with a letter. Sometimes people also mark the shot with a number, but I prefer to not do that, just so it doesn't get confusing, right? So, for example, this fantastic scene that I drew out here, right? It's one scene, two shots here, okay? It's scene five. Both of these are five, okay? Same scene, but they have different letters because it's different shots. So you got person A waving, and then boom, person B waving next to their house, okay? And I do want to note that there is there sometimes are differences between animation and live action filmmaking in terms of how you do these storyboards. So, like I said, live action filmmaking, uh, a scene is a string of shots within the same location. But with animation, when it comes to storyboarding, scenes are often separated based on if the background changes. Okay, so for example, this is a scene from Steven Universe. Okay, if we're talking about live action filmmaking, this is all technically one scene. If we were doing live action filmmaking, this would all be scene five, but it's not because the background is changing. We got Steven sitting in front of the cabinets here, and then we got the gem sitting on the opposite side of the kitchen floor. Right, the background is changing even though it's the same scene technically, so we're going to mark it as different things. Does that make sense? This is an example. Same scene here. The background is the same, and we're just having different panels because obviously you're drawing the character, open the mouth, talking, all that. Right. So animation, storyboarding for animation can be a lot more. I guess you could say technical, because for live action filmmaking, a lot of times you're going to be focusing more on the shot list, which I can also make another video about. You're going to be focusing more on the shot list, referencing that, and then using the storyboards just for what it looks like. But for animation, the storyboards, that's the thing. You know what I mean? So there's a lot more precision in what they're doing and making sure everybody knows what the background is supposed to be, what's this supposed to be, what's that supposed to be. So animation is very expensive. You know what I mean? It's a lot of times, let's say we're talking about American cartoons, a lot of times they're being animated outside of the US. So it's like if we have a mistake on the storyboards and the information we're giving people outside the US, that takes up a lot of their time. All right, they're going to be working on something that's wrong, giving it back to us. We're like, shoot, we made a mistake. Go fix this. It just takes twice as long for no reason. Okay, correct me if I'm wrong, because haven't done animation in a long time, but I love to my animation people. This is the same drawing that I did before, but obviously I have what's happening in the scene. Okay, we have Marshall, quote unquote, waving to Jess, and then Jess waving at Marshall. Okay, this is a description of each of these shots here. Okay, and let's say I want to do dialogue. Boom, I can be like, "Hi, Jess," and then if I want sound effects, birds chirping. This way of having descriptions for the shots, in my opinion, is more suitable for animation because, like I said, it's a lot more technical. Because for live action filmmaking, in my opinion, the most you need is the description of the shot, description of what's happening. So we've got Marshall waving at Jess, Jess waving at Marshall. Because a lot of times these storyboard and the different shots that you have on there, it's paired up with the script. Usually when you see a script that's ready for shooting, it has all of the lines and everything for whatever scene or whatever relevant line it is. You might have 5A, okay? 5A is this text to dialogue. 5B is this text to dialogue down here. So you can do that if you want to be more specific on who you're looking at while talking. But I have my different shots and I have like kind of a range of stuff I want to do. So, like, let's say I want to have a shot of all of this dialogue, have another shot of all of this dialogue, so I can mix and match in my editing process. Now, here's a couple examples of storyboards. I just found these online, got them from Board Panda, and in my opinion, these are pretty good examples of storyboards because they do not have to be all the same. They don't have to look the same. They don't have to whatever, right? So this example from Spider-Man 2, it's very detailed. It's very detailed and you have it almost reminds me of a comic book, right? Very very strong poses. and everything, and you have the arrows showing you what the subject is doing. So Spider-Man's going forward here. We got the tentacles and stuff wrapping around him this way. You know what I mean? So it's very specific, right? This is a storyboard from the film Parasite from 2019. If y'all haven't seen that movie, definitely go watch it. It's so good. So good. Now, compared to this Spider-Man storyboard, it's not as detailed. And that's absolutely okay. Because the main point of storyboards is to make sure you're having an idea of what the shot looks like and what you want to do in the shot. You know what I mean? Like that's the point of it. It doesn't you can literally do storyboards with stick figures and that's okay. As long as people like know what you're trying to say and know what to expect for this shot and like how they need to set up the camera, it doesn't matter how good or bad the drawings are. It doesn't matter how detailed it is. It doesn't matter at all. Like usually, for example, because this is kind of my conclusion, this is usually how I draw storyboards. Okay? This is usually how I draw storyboards. It genuinely doesn't need to be perfect. So boom, have the frame here. And let's say I'm having a character um let's say I'm having two characters talk to each other and one character comes in the frame. Boom, one character. This is usually how I do it. That's character A. Okay? That's character A. And then B, boom, stepping in the frame here. And I usually like to do this for like a little shadow, you know? Boom, stepping in the frame. And they're talking. And then I have my little description here. That's usually what I do. And if I'm feeling extra tired, I'm just like, okay, character talking, character stepping in frame. That's all you need. It doesn't need to be super detailed unless you want it to be. So use this tool to your advantage, okay? The main point of storyboards is to get everybody on the same page and be sure of what you want. It's about experimenting. It's about experimenting, giving yourself an opportunity to figure out what type of shots you want on that day, figure out what type of shots are going to work, figure out how long it's going to take to set up these shots. You're going to be doing that with your DP on the shot list, but still, no storyboard is the same. Like I said, it doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to be perfect. Okay, just use this to your advantage. Get your ideas out there. Make sure everybody knows what's going on set, and that's really it. Storyboards genuinely can be a stick figure like this, or be the Spider-Man one that we showed earlier. Doesn't It's okay. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's the end of this video. Let me know if y'all want me to do more of this longer form content. I'm cool with doing anything. I want to start posting more stuff on my YouTube aside from my films. So I feel like I'm going to continue with doing this. But yeah, if y'all found this video helpful, let me know in the comments. If y'all get any recommendations for what type of video I should do next, put it in the comments. Smash that subscribe button, smash that like button, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.